Some interview questions are tougher than others, and some don't have any good answers at all. In this video, I am going to coach you through the really tough questions and help you steer clear of some of the other traps that candidates tend to fall into on interviews. So go ahead and grab a notepad and hit that like button. Stay with me to the end because I've got a bonus for you.
So, tell me about yourself. Have you ever been fired or forced to resign?
Is it getting hot in here?
Would you like some water? What are your greatest weaknesses? Tell me about a project you worked on and failed.
What's up, recruits? My name's Darren DeLuca, but you can call me the Ramblin' Recruiter. I am a U.S. Army veteran, an author, a job coach, and I've been a recruiter for nearly 2 decades now. I'm passionate about helping you find the job of your dreams and make the most of your career. You do that by subscribing and click the bell to get notifications of new videos when they are posted. At the end of this video, go check out my Facebook group. Link will be down below in the description. There's an old saying among salespeople: people don't buy drills, they buy holes. In other words, people aren't necessarily interested in the best features or the fanciest brand new whiz-bang out there. They're looking for solutions to their problems. It is exactly the same when you are interviewing for a job. Hiring managers don't necessarily care about a candidate having every last feature, every last piece of experience, all the newest whiz-bangs. They are looking for solutions to their problems. Your job is to show them how you provide a solution to those problems. So I've got some great question and answer examples for you, but before we jump into those, let's talk about some of the traps that candidates can sometimes fall into that will destroy you on an interview. Number 1 is nerves. Nervousness is totally understandable on an interview, and it will absolutely destroy you. When you're interviewing for a job, what the hiring managers are really deciding is whether or not they want to buy into your emotional state. They want to know, should they invest in the baggage that you bring with you, the fight you had with your spouse that morning, your divorce, your OCDs, your mania, etc. They want to know, should they feel certain about you. The one thing that nervousness communicates is uncertainty, and uncertainty is a trait that nobody wants to hire. Emotions are contagious, and if you are conveying nervousness, you are absolutely conveying uncertainty to that hiring manager. A large part of what they're picking up on from you is going to be what you believe about yourself. So if you are nervous, you are projecting that uncertainty on them. It is going to create uncertainty when it comes time to debrief on you as a candidate. I've interviewed 8,000 to 10,000 candidates in my career. Nervousness is totally understandable, and it never leads to good feedback. There are a lot of ways to help overcome nervousness, but the one thing that I absolutely do not recommend is that you try any kind of chemical assistance like benzodiazepines or alcohol. The reasons for that should be obvious, but the last thing you want to do is be impaired on an interview. 20 minutes of meditation should absolutely do the trick, or you might try some Superman poses like this, or other power poses to help put you in a positive frame of mind. Keep repeating positive affirmations to yourself and just go have a good time with it. The more you manage your expectations about what's going to happen on this interview, the more calm and enjoyable the experience is going to be for you. The very best interview I ever had in my life was the one where I had absolutely no expectations whatsoever about getting hired. Here, let me tell you a little story about it. Back in 2010, I was working as a headhunter for an agency in New York. The recession was still on, things were really difficult. I had another child on the way, and I knew for sure that now was a good time to start looking for a change and move over to the corporate or in-house side of recruiting. My clients were banks and financial services companies, so that's where I was primarily applying. And I was getting interviews, lots of them. I counted up all the second and third round interviews and phone interviews. It turns out that I had interviewed 18 different times. No offers. Then one day, seemingly out of the clear blue, I got a call from Johnson & Johnson. I must have sent them my resume at some point, although I don't remember doing it. Why would they be interested in me? I have no idea. I had no pharmaceutical experience, no medical experience. I had no previous experience in scientific recruitment. But When they called, I answered, and I decided to go on the interview anyway. But since I had no expectations of getting hired, I just decided to go have a good time with it and was laughing and joking with the hiring managers the whole time. Well, much to my surprise, they offered me a job, and I've been all pharma ever since. The second thing that can totally derail an interview is overselling yourself. So if a hiring manager says, I need somebody who's really good with Excel, and you jump all over that and rattle off 50 things you know about Excel, that's overselling yourself. Remember, show, don't tell. Show what your experience is, don't just keep prattling off features and benefits. Tell me about how the pivot tables you analyzed at your last company saved them thousands of dollars. Think of it in terms of selling a product. Let's say, for example, you were selling a copy machine. Nobody cares about what the features of that copy machine are. Nobody cares about all the different whiz-bangs it has. What they care about is a nice, neat, professional, finished document. That's how you sell a copy machine, and that's how you sell yourself on an interview. Show me the nice, neat, professional, finished document. Don't sit there and list off all the features. The third thing that will absolutely kill you on an interview is rambling. Now, I know it's funny for the rambling recruiter to tell you that rambling is a bad thing, but I can absolutely tell you that just as in life, in any other aspect of life, it's very difficult to keep people's attention. And if you find yourself getting way off on a tangent, you run the risk of losing the attention of your hiring manager or your recruiter. In fact, interviews should be a good two-way dialogue, or back and forth like a tennis match. If you find yourself talking more than 60% of the time, chances are really good that you're rambling. You're providing too much information. The best advice I can give you here is answer the question that's being asked. Nothing more, nothing less. And if you find yourself talking for long periods of time, snap the hiring manager or recruiter back into it by saying, does that answer your question? If they've been drifting, that will definitely bring them back in. Okay, so let's talk about some of the common questions that will trip people up on interviews. I've provided you some really good examples and answers, but if you want to get more detail, I highly recommend you check out The Ultimate Guide to Job Interview Answers by Bob Firestone. Bob is a guy who has spent the last 15 years analyzing thousands of job interviews and looking for those questions that absolutely blow people up. And he's come up with a list of answers that goes way beyond a basic star format interview answer. These are answers that will win every single time. I have used this to prep for interviews in my own professional career before, and I highly recommend you check it out. It is absolutely a great investment if you are looking for a job. Link will be down below in the description. This is well worth the read. Also, if you have more questions on what a star format interview question is, you're going to want to check out my video on behavioral interviews. Link should be somewhere up here. Tell me about yourself. So this is like a dreaded interview question. It seems simple enough, right? It seems like it should be straightforward, but there is so much that can go wrong with this question. When a hiring manager or a recruiter asks you, tell me about yourself, really what that's signaling is they're not a very strong interviewer and they don't really know where to begin. So your job is then to turn that back around on them and ask them to tell you where to begin. So if somebody were to ask me, tell me about yourself, the first thing I would say is, absolutely, I'd be happy to. Where would you like me to begin? Now, the hiring manager or recruiter is likely to do a little bit of a double take there. They weren't expecting that. And they probably don't even know where they want you to begin. But this will help them give you some clues as to how you should focus that answer. You want to hone in on those pieces of your experience that they find interesting and focus your attention on that. So tell me about yourself. Absolutely, would be happy to. Where would you like me to begin? Now, while you are telling them about yourself, I strongly recommend you utilize the 70-20-10 rule. 70% of what you say should be job-specific responsibilities and accomplishments. 20% should be different rewards and accolades and attaboys and pats on the back that you've gotten over the course of your career. 10% should be personal interests, things that make you interesting, things that make you appear more human. Remember, you do want to give your interviewer the feeling that you are no different from them. You are a human being. You two would get along with each other outside the office. Find some common ground. Use that 10% where you talk about yourself and your personal interests to do that. Have you ever been fired or forced to resign? This is a very difficult and very loaded question. If you have never been fired or forced to resign, then you have nothing to worry about. But if you have been terminated from a job, or you have lost a job for reasons other than a reduction in force, you want to be really careful how you answer this question. Now, first thing you need to know, it's a loaded question because forced resignations are illegal. If you can prove that a company told you you must resign or you're going to be fired, that company has wrongfully terminated you, and if that has ever happened to you, I strongly suggest you contact an employment attorney ASAP. Let's say, for the sake of argument, you did do something wrong and you had been fired. Now, I'm not suggesting that you lie or omit anything. You should be honest, and honesty is always the best policy. If you have ever been terminated for a position, it's probably best to deal with that up front. But I will say this. Companies nowadays will not, as a rule, will not provide a reference on you. They will only confirm your dates of employment. This person started here on this day, they worked here until this day. They usually won't provide any other information than that. Reason being, if they say anything about you that causes you not to get hired into a new job, they're opening themselves up to liability. You can sue them for that. So most companies are very reluctant to provide any kind of a reference. Now, that's not to say that you won't get hit by a backdoor reference. In other words, the hiring manager knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows you. And they reach out to these people and they find out more about you from your previous experience. That can really blow up in your face if you choose not to be upfront about having been fired or terminated or forced to resign in the past. What are your weaknesses? Now, this is, again, potentially indicative of a hiring manager or recruiter that's not a very strong interviewer. This is an old-fashioned question. Now, back in the day, recruiters would encourage you to spin this into something that could be seen as a positive. I don't think that really works anymore in 2019. I think that's way too cliche, and it's a technique that's known widely. So answering what are your weaknesses with, well, I'm a bit of a workaholic, I just don't think is going to resonate with anybody in 2019. I think you're better off actually coming up with a real legitimate area of opportunity that you think you can improve in. For example, on one of my recent interviews, I was asked what my weaknesses are, and I said, well, I tend to be a better communicator in writing than I am in person, so I often fall into the trap of using email too much rather than picking up the phone or going to see somebody in person when that would be more appropriate. However, I'm working on it, and I've put a reminder in my Outlook calendar every day at the same time to get up, get out of the office, and go talk to people face to face. The key to it is to demonstrate that you recognize what the area of opportunity is and that you've got a plan to improve it. Don't spin one of these negatives into a positive. I'm a workaholic, I don't delegate enough. I just don't think that resonates with anybody today. Tell me about a project that you worked on that failed. This is a tricky one. Companies want to see a couple of things. Number one, how resilient are you? Do you bounce back from a disappointment or a setback quickly? Number two, how well do you work in an ambiguous or outright confused situation? And three, are you able to take accountability for things that you should be taking accountability for? So whatever the project might have been that you worked on, whether it was canceled or it just fell flat on its face, make sure that you demonstrate all these points. You take accountability for that which is yours to take accountability for. You demonstrate that you had no problem with it. You were working full force on this project today. The next day they said it was canceled. Okay, no big deal. I move on and do something different. And three, that you're resilient, that you can pick yourself up off the floor, drink some water, and drive on regardless of losing a year. Those are the three areas they want to see: resiliency, ambiguity, accountability. Demonstrate those, you'll be golden. So there are many more interview questions that can trip you up, that are difficult, that don't really have a great answer. But the bottom line is, on any given day, any given question might catch you by surprise. So if you want to make sure that you are absolutely 100% prepared, I can't stress to you enough how powerful a resource the Ultimate Guide to Job Interview Answers by Bob Firestone is. If you are searching for a job, this might be the best $20 or $25 that you spend. Bob has broken down all of these questions and given you really powerful answers that go beyond a star. So if you're looking for other resources on interviewing, I would definitely suggest you check out my behavioral interviews video. Link should be up here somewhere. Or you can also check out my general interview prep. This is a 30-minute video that you should watch, the night before you go into an interview. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. My name's Darren DeLuca, but you can call me the Ramblin' Recruiter, reminding you that in life, wherever you go, there you are. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.